Imagine finding a small carved stone in the sands of Egypt. On its surface stands a being that looks as though it was assembled from several worlds at once. It has the head of a rooster, the torso of a man, 2 serpents instead of legs, a shield in one hand, and a whip or scepter in the other. Around it are strange letters, sacred names, and signs that look less like decoration and more like a code. For centuries, this image has been called Abraxas. Some have described it as a Gnostic god. Others have called it a demon. Still others see it as a symbol of the union between light and darkness. But the truth is more complex and far more interesting. To understand Abraxas, we first need to separate 3 things that are often confused: the name, the image, and the later interpretations. The name appears in ancient magical and religious contexts, often in the form Abraxas. The strange figure with the head of a rooster appears on many engraved gems, but not every figure of this kind is identified by that name. And the idea of Abraxas as a cosmic being beyond good and evil owes as much to modern thinkers such as Carl Jung and Hermann Hesse as it does to ancient Gnostic sources. So what was Abraxas originally? The most famous ancient connection leads us to Basilides, a Christian teacher who was active in Alexandria during the 2nd century. Alexandria was not simply a city. It was one of the great crossroads of the ancient world, a place where Greek philosophy, Egyptian religion, Jewish theology, astrology, early Christianity, mystery cults, and ritual magic existed side by side. In that environment, religious ideas crossed boundaries. Divine names moved between languages, and symbols traveled between different cults. Philosophers discussed the nature of reality, while ritual specialists engraved divine names into stones that people wore against their bodies. This is the world in which the name Abraxas became important. Most of what we know about Basilides and his followers comes from Christian authors who opposed them, especially Irenaeus of Lyon and Hippolytus of Rome. This means we have valuable testimony, but it is not neutral testimony. The writings of Basilides are mostly lost, so we often hear his critics describing the system from the outside. According to these reports, the Basilidian cosmos was made up of vast ranks of heavens and spiritual powers. The total number of heavens was said to be 365. Abraxas was associated with the power that ruled, summarized, or stood at the summit of this cosmic order. The details vary depending on the source, but the number is the key. In Greek numerology, a word could be understood not only through its sound and meaning, but also through the numerical value of its letters. This practice is known as isopsephy. When the Greek letters of Abraxas are added together, they produce the number 365. Alpha is 1, beta is 2, rho is 100, alpha is 1, Xi is 60, alpha is 1, sigma is 200. Altogether, the total is 365. This turns the name into a compressed cosmology. 365 is the number of days in the solar year. In the Basilidian reports, it is also the number of heavens. The name therefore becomes a verbal diagram of totality, representing the cycle of time, the architecture of the heavens, and the authority that extends throughout the entire system. Whether Abraxas was understood as the highest god, a great archon, or the ruler of the cosmic orders, depends on which ancient report we follow. But in every case, the name is connected with scale, hierarchy, and cosmic completeness. And this is where the first major misunderstanding appears. Abraxas was not necessarily a single, universally defined Gnostic deity. There was no single Gnostic church, no single Gnostic scripture, and no unified doctrine accepted by every movement that modern scholars place under the label of Gnosticism. Different groups imagined the divine world in radically different ways. Some spoke of emanations, some described archons. Some emphasized a transcendent father beyond the creator of the material world. Others developed complex myths about Sophia, the fall of the soul, and the recovery of divine knowledge. Abraxas belongs most securely to the Basilidian environment and to the wider world of ancient magic. He should not be treated as though every Gnostic school worshipped him in the same form. Now we can return to the image. The being with the head of a rooster and the legs of serpents is commonly called an Abraxas figure. But scholars are cautious about that label. Some gems bearing this figure include the name Abraxas, others do not. Some combine it with names such as Iao, Sabaoth, Adonai, or Michael. Others include mysterious vocal formulas and magical characters. In some cases, the image may represent Abraxas. In others, it may function as a broader solar, protective, or commanding power. Ancient magical images were not always portraits. They could act as visual machines, gathering several divine qualities into a single form. The rooster's head is the first clue. The rooster announces the dawn. It stands at the boundary between darkness and light. In the ancient world, this made it a natural symbol of vigilance, awakening, solar power, and the defeat of night. A rooster does not create the sun, but it recognizes the moment when the hidden light is about to return. In symbolic terms, that makes it a guardian of transition. The human torso forms the central axis of the figure. It is the point of consciousness between what rises above and what moves below. The body is upright, active, and commanding. It suggests intelligence, will, and the ability to mediate between different levels of reality. Then come the serpent legs, perhaps the most disturbing part of the image. In modern popular culture, the serpent is usually reduced to a symbol of evil. In the ancient Mediterranean world, however, serpents carried many meanings. They could be chthonic, connected with the earth and the underworld. They could symbolize renewal because they shed their skin. They could represent healing, danger, secret knowledge, fertility, or a force that moves between visible and invisible realms. The two serpents may therefore express the figure's connection with the depths. The head belongs to the dawn and the sky. The lower body belongs to the earth, the hidden world, and the powers beneath ordinary consciousness. Between them stands the human form. The result is not simply a monster. It is a vertical map of reality. One hand usually carries a shield, the other holds a whip, flail, or scepter. The shield represents protection, the power to resist hostile forces. The whip represents command, the power to direct movement, discipline energies, and impose order. One hand defends, the other governs. This combination is essential. The figure does not merely endure the cosmos, it acts within it. When all of these parts are seen together, the image becomes a compact system. Solar vigilance above, serpentine power below, human intelligence at the center, defense in one hand, authority in the other. It is not difficult to understand why such an image would be engraved on an amulet. And here we should remember the human being who once wore it. For us, an engraved gem may sit behind museum glass. For its owner, it may have been carried during illness, travel, childbirth, legal danger, nightmares, or the fear of hostile spiritual influence. That person may not have been trying to solve an abstract philosophical puzzle. They may have been frightened. They may have wanted protection. They may have believed that the right image, the right name, and the right number could bring the hidden order of the cosmos to their side. These gems show us the point where theology touched the skin. Many of them belong to the broad field of Greco-Egyptian magic. They combine Egyptian imagery, Greek inscriptions, Jewish divine names, planetary symbolism, and ritual formulas. Modern categories often fail in this world. Was it religion, magic, medicine, astrology, or philosophy? In the ancient world, it could have been all of them at once. The name Abraxas appears in this mixed ritual environment as a word of power. It may invoke cosmic authority, solar force, protection, or command over invisible beings. But this does not mean that every person who used the name belonged to a Basilidian sect. A magical practitioner could borrow a powerful name without accepting the entire theology from which it came. Sacred names circulated because people believed they worked. Have you ever tried reading a book about esotericism, only to feel completely lost after just a few pages? This often happens because many of these authors use symbolic language, coded references, and complex concepts that can be extremely difficult to understand without specialized knowledge. That is exactly why I created the MAP method. It was designed to make these teachings clear, accessible, and understandable for everyone. The program includes 12 documentary-style videos that offer detailed explanations of 12 of the most important works in esotericism, along with practical guidance to help you apply their teachings to your own life. You will also receive illustrated study materials, as well as access to a specialized AI assistant that can answer your questions within minutes. You can access the program through the link in the first pinned comment. Be sure to take advantage of our special launch offer, which is backed by a 7-day money-back guarantee. Now let us return to the topic of the video. This is also why the origin of the word remains uncertain. Many attempts have been made to trace Abraxas back to Egyptian, Hebrew, Greek, or an invented sacred language. Some popular theories connect it with the word abracadabra. These possibilities are intriguing, but they should not be presented as established fact. In ancient magic, a word did not need a clear dictionary meaning in order to possess authority. Its sound, numerical value, foreign quality, and ritual history could make it powerful. So, when you look at Abraxas, what do you see? Do you see a contradiction that should not exist, or a totality that ordinary categories cannot contain? Write your interpretation in the comments, because that question lies at the very center of the symbol. Centuries later, Abraxas would return in a very different form. During the Renaissance and the early modern period, scholars, antiquarians, and collectors became fascinated by engraved gems, ancient heresies, magical alphabets, and the surviving fragments of Gnostic thought. But the modern image of Abraxas was shaped most powerfully during the 20th century. Carl Gustav Jung used Abraxas in his mysterious work, The 7 Sermons to the Dead. In Jung's symbolic world, Abraxas is greater than the oppositions through which the conscious mind organizes reality. God and devil, light and darkness, creation and destruction, appear not as identical forces, but as realities contained within a more overwhelming totality. This was not a simple revival of Basilidian theology. Jung was constructing a psychological and visionary symbol. His Abraxas belongs to the drama of the human psyche, especially the confrontation with everything consciousness excludes. The figure becomes a warning against spiritual systems that identify themselves only with light, while projecting everything dark, instinctive, destructive, or frightening onto an external enemy. Hermann Hesse carried this image into literature through Demian, where Abraxas becomes associated with a god who contains both the divine and the demonic. For many modern readers, this is the Abraxas they know, not the ruler of 365 heavens, but the symbol of a reality that includes both radiance and shadow. This later interpretation connects naturally with alchemical ideas, the union of opposites and the integration of the shadow. But we must keep the historical layers clear. Ancient Basilidians were not practicing Jungian psychology. Jung was not simply translating a lost Gnostic doctrine. He was reimagining an ancient name for a modern crisis, the divided human being trying to become whole. If you value this distinction between historical evidence and later occult interpretation, leave a like. It helps deeper material. Like this, reach viewers who want more than a surface-level explanation. Abraxas also appears in modern occultism, Gnostic revival movements, esoteric orders, magical literature, and private initiatory systems. Yet this is another area where exaggeration is common. There is no solid evidence of an unbroken secret lineage carrying the worship of Abraxas from Basilides directly into modern Freemasonry, Rosicrucianism, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, the Ordo Templi Orientis, or the AA. Individual occultists and later groups may have studied, invoked, or reinterpreted Abraxas, but that is not the same as proving historical continuity. Abraxas is not a central or universal symbol of regular Freemasonry. He is not a standard doctrine shared by all Rosicrucians. And he should not be confused with Abrahadabra, the word of the Aeon in Thelemic symbolism. The resemblance in sound can be tempting, but similarity is not identity. What connects Abraxas with secret societies is not necessarily a hidden chain of transmission. It is a shared attraction to symbols that compress many levels of meaning into one image. Initiatory traditions often work through exactly this kind of symbol, something that can be understood differently at different stages, revealing more as the observer changes. That may be the real secret of Abraxas. The image survives because it resists a final explanation. It is religious, yet magical. It is protective, yet unsettling. Although it is rooted in a specific ancient environment, it still provokes questions about consciousness, shadow, power, and wholeness. Now return to the figure we saw at the beginning. The rooster's head is no longer merely grotesque. It announces the return of light. The serpents are no longer merely evil. They connect the figure to the hidden powers of life, death, earth, and renewal. The shield is not simply a weapon. It represents resistance against chaos. The whip is not merely an instrument of violence. It represents command, movement, and the force that directs what would otherwise remain uncontrolled. And the name is not just a name. Its letters become 365, representing the heavens, the year, the cycle, and the complete field through which the power of Abraxas extends. Perhaps that is why Abraxas has been described as divine by some and demonic by others. A symbol of totality can be frightening because it includes what the conscious mind would prefer to exclude. But inclusion does not mean that good and evil become meaningless. It means that reality may be larger than the oppositions through which we first learn to understand it. Abraxas is not valuable because he gives us an easy answer. He is valuable because he forces us to confront a difficult question. Can the human mind recognize wholeness without turning darkness into light or light into darkness? The ancient gem offers no explanation. It simply places the entire mystery before us. Heaven above, the depths below, consciousness in the middle, protection in one hand, command in the other. And perhaps the reason Abraxas survived is not that humanity fully understood the symbol, but that the symbol continued to reveal something humanity had never fully understood about itself. Which symbol should we decode next with the same historical and esoteric depth? Leave its name in the comments. Subscribe if you want to keep exploring hidden traditions, sacred symbols, spiritual anatomy, and the deeper structures behind esoteric ideas without reducing them to superstition or empty sensationalism. Like and share this video with someone who will never see Abraxas the same way again. And in just a moment, a playlist will appear on the screen with more symbols and occult concepts explained in depth. Choose the next video and continue the journey from there. If you have spent any time studying Western esotericism, you may already know the feeling. You buy the books, save the videos, collect PDF files, and take notes. But the more you learn, the harder it becomes to understand how everything fits together. The problem is not your intelligence, and it is not a lack of information. The problem is that no one ever gave you a map. Esoteric Atlas, 12 Classics. Decoded is a documentary-style self-study program designed to give you that structure. Across 12 in-depth lessons, you will explore foundational works by Aleister Crowley, Helena Blavatsky, Eliphas Levi, Manly P. Hall, Dion Fortune, and Israel Regardie. Every lesson follows the MAP method. First, you will map the author and the historical context. Then you will analyze the essential symbols and ideas using clear, easy-to-understand language. Finally, you will put what you have learned into practice through guided reflection and study prompts. You will also receive 48 downloadable resources, including illustrated ebooks, mind maps, specialized glossaries, and journaling worksheets, along with a custom AI study companion. The first 100 students can get lifetime access for $49.99 before the price increases to $99.99. Your purchase is protected by a 7-day money-back guarantee. Stop collecting fragments. Start seeing the structure. Follow the link in the description and begin with Esoteric Atlas. Now keep your learning journey going right here on our channel. Click one of the playlists appearing on your screen, and I will see you in the next videos.